What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are Traditional Fans with Opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Black Butler, Season 5, Episode 2. So in this one, Seal and Sebastian stay in the mansion of the village's liege lord, Sieglin Sullivan, who is shown to be into Seal. Basically, so Sebastian, helps, you know, Sieglin's butler, Wolfram, make dinner. And while that's going on, Seal, who is not good at speaking German, tries to communicate with Sieglin, and he uses some key words to try to figure out what Sieglin's saying. And it works decently well for him. You know, basically they're talking, and Sieglin really likes the food that Sebastian makes. So later that night, uh, Seal and Sebastian are talking about the investigation, trying to figure out what's going on with the werewolf, the wit, and witch's curse. And Sebastian detects that Sieglin's eavesdropping, and he opens the door. Sieglin falls, into the room, and she basically offers herself up. Like she thinks that Seal wants to do stuff with her, and does the Seal does not like talking with women. He is not good at that. I mean, one, he's engaged, so I mean, he should not uh, be with another woman anyway. But as far as the show goes, this is all meant to be played for laughs, and Seal's like, no, I'm not. This is a misunderstanding. And Sebastian's just laughing about the whole thing. And then after that happens, basically Seal, has Sebastian fire some toys that she could play with until she falls asleep. Then once she's asleep, um, Sebastian and Seal go to the forest to try and investigate the alleged werewolf, and Seal starts randomly crying. Like he's not even sad already. He's like, "What the heck am I crying for?" And so you know Sebastian, then Sebastian walks ahead, and then he starts crying. He's like, "Wait, what?" Because Sebastian's a demon. He should not be able to feel the emotions that are required for crying. So it's you have this new development as, okay, what's going on? What kind of curse are we talking about? And as far as what the deal's curse is, I'm not going to get into spoilers about that. I do know some about what's actually going on, but as far as this episode goes, this does very well. It sets up the threat of the werewolf. And Sieglin, she explains that what she was taught is that she was descended from the Emerald Witch, who sacrificed her legs to a werewolf so a werewolf could protect her village, and that possibly over time, as the witch's blood has been diluted, as interbreeding, I guess, with non-witches or something like that. Basically, the pact between the werewolf and the witch is not as prominent as it used to be. So like the villagers are basically like imprisoned in the village instead of being protected from outsiders. So like it's more of like a prison instead of a refuge. And then one of the villagers is allegedly attacked by a werewolf. Sebastian notes that that the injuries are different than what they were told about the alleged werewolf attacks. And so, and this old lady says that it's the outsiders' fault for showing up, that the werewolf's mad for them showing up. And basically, the basically the people want the Seal and his party to leave. Now they have not left. They're still trying to finish their investigations. So when they leave, it'll probably be pretty soon. And basically, they're on a timetable to solve this curse because whatever happened to Seal, whatever's happened to Sebastian, you know, if I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but with what caused them to cry, if it threatens their life, they're on another reason to have a time, to be on a timetable because they have to save Seal's life, as well as solve it before the villagers kick them out. As far as the quality episode goes, I think this was a very good episode. Sieglinde was funny. Her interactions with Seal. Seal. Who he doesn't really do much. With talking to like women, and like the only ones he ever really talked to were basically his family. So Elizabeth, who's his cousin and fiance, it, it it's it's 19th century Europe. It's, nobility did stuff like that. Anyway, but that's then his aunt, who was Jack the Ripper. Yes, that happened. Yes, his aunt was Jack the Ripper. So like the only women he's really talked to are basically his family. So he doesn't have a lot of experience talking with women outside his family. So he's nervous, especially since Sieglinde is very obviously into him. So it's all played for laughs. And this is generally how romance is done well in anime, where it's mostly just play for laughs. Usually when it's not taken very seriously, it helps the show not be bogged down by it. So I thought this was funny. Sebastian, his reaction to everything was just hilarious. Yeah. And Seal just being Seal, he's basically, Seal does not like feeling emotions. We know he has emotions, but he does not like feeling emotions. So this is all just meant to be funny. Now we're probably about to get to the real serious stuff where things really start picking because it's one thing that happens in a lot of the arcs in Black Butler is that you have your intro episodes that kind of play for laughs a lot, but then you get into like your more serious stuff, kind of like last season with the public school arc where a lot of the intro stuff was basically Seal acclimate himself at school with dealing with all the prefects and becoming an assistant to one and like having to deal with all the inner school politics and then the whole cricket game how he cheated in the cricket game and then they got into like all the stuff with the murders. So basically that's kind of where you have intro episodes that interest characters while bringing on some laughs. Then we're about to get into the real serious stuff with what's going on with the werewolves, what's going on with the witches. Are there even any witches or werewolves? Like, is Seal correct about that not being the case? Like, is he correct in not believing in werewolves or witches? A lot of that should be explained soon. And I really like this episode, and I'm looking forward to next week's. Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers Episode 2. So in this episode, Sin has his second, encounter with Unika, who like attacks, a this president's, speech. He's trying to figure out why she wants to kill all the gears, and souls with sin during all this, and you know, he basically Unica attacks the president of the United States, and Soul and Sin try to stop her, and then Viking arrives and helps prevent Unica's attack, and Unica retreats, and Sin wants to talk to her, and 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 then meanwhile, while this is going on, there's characters named Kai and Dizzy who are targeted, and this squadron is sent after them, but they're defeated by the Valentine sisters. And Onika, when she returns to her headquarters, she meets someone who she calls her father, and she failed to steal this key that was going to help her get the gear, kill the gears. But despite failing to steal it, she's able to recreate it, which she's successful in an alternate fashion. And apparently there's a spy amongst Sin and his allies, and so it sets things up to where there's going to be some conflict what's going on, and then Soul's friend, who's a time traveler named Axel Lowe, has been captured. Now, where and when he's captured, that's not revealed yet. And I mean, as far as this episode goes, I mean, I don't understand why Sin wants to talk with Unica. It's like I feel like he barely knows her, so he's like, she's gotta have a reason to go after the gears. Oh yes, but she's still trying to murder people. You do have to stop her, even if you want to talk her down. There is such a thing as talking with your fist, where you have to, win a fight in order to get your point across. You know, and I'm still not a fan of this 3D animation. It's not like like with Chainsaw Man, where Chainsaw Man 3D animation kind of grew on me, like because it was done better than most other 3D anime. But this show, the 3D animation just looks awful, and the character designs are cool, and but the story, it's like, okay, this is a spin-off of a fighting game. I would like to see more fighting. Like, yes, you want character moments, but you want the character moments to actually be interesting. But since it's based off a fighting game series, you need to have more fighting. And yeah, there's not a lot to say that's good about this episode. And I mean, it's kind of boring. I'll try to finish out this entire season and see how good the rest of the show is. Maybe they're able to fix things. So there have been shows that have had some improvement, like the Devil May Cry 2007 anime, which started off slow but had some improvement, and I would say that one end off on a high note. Now I'm talking about the 2007 Devil May Cry, not the newer one. As far as this show goes, maybe it can salvage itself, but with what we've seen, it could just be like a boring show that had promise and didn't deliver. That could be what happens, but I'm hoping. I'm hoping for this to be a good show. Yaiba, Samurai Legend, Episode 2. So in this one, Yaiba, who had lost to Onimaru in the first episode, Yaiba keeps trying to, challenge him again. And he basically, tries to pull some pranks on Onimaru, and who, resist, Yaiba's demands. The pranks keep pissing him off, and so basically he like tries to charge into like Yaiba's house while Yaiba's charging into Onimaru's house, and then they meet up in the middle of the street. Basically, like Onimaru, like he sees the tiger, you, Yaiba's pet tiger, and like Kagetora, and basically he you know attacks him because it's a tiger. He just like, oh, he's like, oh frick. So he hits the tiger while you know Shonosuke, who's Yaiba's bird friend, breaks some stuff at Onimaru's house, and basically Onimaru sees the mess, and Yaiba sees the injured Kagetora, and both get really pissed off. They basically run, try to find each other, and then they get into a really big like kendo duel where Yaiba by kendo rules he cheats. He kicks, he picks up lumber, throws it at Onimaru, and like bites him. Like he uses like what when in kendo would probably get him disqualified. Like he didn't play by kendo rule. So and he it's basically it's such an over the top fight that goes like like across the city, even on top of a bus. It's so funny. And Yaiba wins the fight, but he's told by he's told by like by the old lady at the dojo that he didn't win fairly because like because he didn't play by the rules. And you know he's like, all right, I'll win fairly. Yeah. Oh, he's like, all right, I'll beat Onimaru next time fairly. And Onimaru, he's mad that he lost. He knows Yaiba cheated technically, but he's pissed off that he lost anyway. So like, can he like break? He like fence and he breaks it, but he accidentally finds this underground stairway on his family property. So he walks down and finds this ancient sword that basically he hears these voices and he picks up the devil wind sword and it turns him into into this oni, so he gets like demon horns. And he's basically a demon now. So that sets up for the next conflict between the two characters, to where you have Yaiba, who's like he's a human. Well, I'm not going to get into anything regarding future spoilers, but so I know a little bit about some of the story. But basically you have Yaiba fighting a demon, and so we'll see what happens with Yaiba and Onimaru, how Sokka is going to react, and how all the random high schoolers going to be are reacting to it, because they'll be like, what the heck's going on? Like, I'm sure next week it's probably gonna be a little more serious next week compared to the first two episodes. But I still think it could be really funny because Yaiba's personality, he's very much like Goku in the sense that all he knows is fighting. He doesn't know anything about manners, um, intelligence, or well, really much anything because he lived in the jungle basically all his life. But this was a great episode. Like, this show could be you know the best new series. It could be the best new series. I mean, unless the Wit Steel One Piece releases, then that'd be different. But but this show, is really good. This is a fantastic anime. And I really like the animation. I like the cartoonish design, and I think this was, I think this was great. I was laughing so hard there during the duel. I'm like, man, they're like seriously fighting, but it's just they're all pissed off. Like, I mean, Yaiba started it. I'm I mean, clearly, his father never taught him how to, you know, act. Like, like it's amazing that kid survived in the woods because he is so retarded, but it's so funny. Like, if you have like how he's interacting with like regular civilization, like it's just funny. Like, there's probably gonna be some coming of age, themes with Yaiba, like his character arc as he might learn more about the city life, but a lot of stuff regarding a lot of the more mystical stuff, that's gonna play a big role. And yeah, I really like this episode. Like, this was great. This was such a good episode. Like, these first two episodes have just been fantastic. Like, this is gonna be one of those anime that like I really look forward to. Like, as the week goes by. Yeah, like this will be one of the biggest hits of spring. Like, it won't be the biggest hit because you still have One Piece and probably My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, Black Butler, but Yaiba could be I think it's gonna be a really big hit. And it, this is a great episode, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season. And I hope they adapt the entire manga, which is like I believe it's like 24 volumes. So that gets you probably 4 or 5 seasons. So this could be like a 4 or 5 season. So I hope they adapt the entire thing. So I want to see it all. I want to see this entire thing on screen. And hopefully it's all good. I don't know everything about what happens. I know some of the story because I did try to look at some information beforehand to get some background knowledge, so I know how it is as an adaptation, as well as how it stands on its own. And I say this is a great show. Like, this is fantastic. And yeah, I really am looking forward to next week's episode. And that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.